My name is Cassandra, the Vintage Arcade Gal, and please forgive my voice. I'm a little under the weather. Turns out I found out this weekend I'm allergic to white pepper, of all things. So this might be a little bit of a lower quality effort than normal, but maybe I'll jazz it up with some cool wipes. But I didn't want too much time to go by because we do have a new game about back in December and just haven't had a chance to make a video about it. And we have a project that we're trying to finish up because we are moving, which is pretty anxiety prone for arcade game collectors because you have to move these big heavy things and you don't want to break them or break yourself. And as you see right here, this is not an incoming game. This is actually an outgoing game. I actually sold one of the games. I sold the Liberator upright because we already have the cabaret that we made. I don't really need 2 Liberators as much as I am kind of the patron saint of Liberator. So somebody else is going to get to enjoy this. In fact, the person who bought this is the person we bought our Quicks Cabaret from. So I'm glad to return the favor. Super cool game. Sad to see it go because we put a lot of work into it. And it is a very beautiful game, the side art especially. But, you know, if I don't have to move 2 or 3 games that I really don't need, I'm going to probably sell. And this might not be the first one I sell. But we'll see what happens. So I want to show you real quick a project we're working on that we desperately need to finish before we move. And we're going to show the new game. So let's go take a look at the project. Okay, so here is the project. It is the Trak 10 that I bought last year, which was heavily, heavily water damaged. And you can see it's actually standing up again. I don't know if you happen to see me on Instagram, but I cut this thing in half. And you can see right now it's had its first round of Bondo. I'm doing some fixing on some of this cabinet is in really bad shape, but we've totally rebuilt the bottom. It's got its first round of Bondo, and it's starting to look like a game again. We've also gotten, I have 5 board sets for this game, and out of the 5, 2 look like they were salvaged from the Titanic wreckage. They're really bad. 2 I've gotten to partially work. Both have slight sync issues and logic issues. And I have one that is completely working except for the audio. But I think I figured out the audio. I'm just waiting for the amp IC. And then so we should have a working board set. The monitor looks great. But we need to finish this up before we move because you really don't want to move a project in pieces and parts. It's a great way to break things. And ironically, when we moved up from Houston, we had a similar thing where we were rebuilding our Outrun Cabaret. It seems like a billion years ago. And it was finished the week before we moved. So really, hopefully this won't be quite as bad because it's pumping along pretty fast. But it should be a really nice example of this game. And I'll do a video of this game once it's complete because this is a very, very important game in arcade game history because it's the very first racing game ever. This is it. And this is like kind of the cost reduction version, and there's a pretty interesting reason for that too. Okay, so now I want to look at the new game. We're going to look at AntiAircraft by Atari. Alright, so here's a game you are not going to see probably ever in casual company. This is an Atari AntiAircraft, 1975. And it's a really, really interesting game from a historical standpoint that people never think about because of a couple of reasons. One, the game still has no microprocessor and no RAM. It does have a ROM. So we're still talking about early days, 75. We're only 3 years, really 2.5 years from the release of Pong. So the video game industry is very, very, very young at this point. But the interesting thing is people are getting sick of Pong clones because almost everything after Pong was just like some sort of variation of Pong or rip-off of Pong and, you know, Pong doubles, you know, paddle battle, and so forth. So Atari, to their credit, really was trying to be innovative with game concepts. And they almost lost their shirt on Grand Trak, which we'll talk about when the Trak 10 is all fixed up. And this is one of those games where it was a little different, and you can see the evolution of video games and where they're going. I think AntiAircraft is Atari's first shooter. I don't think it's the first shooter ever, but it's probably pretty close. It's probably within months of similar games. And you may know this game more by the Atari 2600 version, which is called Air and Sea Battle. At least part of this game is an Air and Sea Battle. This game is strangely more primitive than the Atari 2600 version because, first of all, it's actually in black and white. These color bits on the bottom are just color mylars to give it a sense of understanding of what one player and two player is. And it doesn't have the variations of games that the 2600 version has. This is one of those games I bought, wasn't planning on buying, wasn't really on my list. I'm very interested in Bronze Age games for the last couple of years. It was locally for sale, and it kept on going down in price to the point where it was only like, I think I paid $400 for it. And I just didn't want someone to destroy it or get hold of it, and Lord help us put some sort of 60-1 in it for some reason, because this game is pretty cherry, and I don't think it's ever been modified or messed with. It's 100% original, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's amazing. This game is 1 year shy of 50 years old, and just look at this side art. It's perfect. I mean, it looks almost like it just came out of the factory showroom floor. The bezel, the interior of the game is just as clean as a whistle. It works. Everything matches. The numbers match. I don't even think the monitor has had a cap kit installed. It's truly an amazing survivor. There are probably not many games of this era in this kind of unmolested, unrestored kind of condition. And the only thing that really tells it is that the control panel is just filled with cigarette burns, which is, people smoked in the 70s a lot, y'all, and especially in arcades. So pretty par for the course, with the cigarette burn. So I'll show you kind of how this game plays here. All right, so here we are, Anti-Aircraft. It's a two-player game. Each side, so you have the red side and the blue side, that has these little anti-aircraft guns. There's 3 buttons that will change the angle of the gun and fire at the same time. And the little planes will come out on each level. Sometimes 2 planes come out, and sometimes it's just 1. And it's pretty forgiving as far as the collision detection, believe it or not. So I'll show you. And it's a time game, so it's whoever gets the highest score at the end wins between the 2 players. And you can tie, actually. There's no tiebreaker here. Okay, so I'm just going to play for a second so you can see and hear it. So you can see that you don't have to be super accurate. And this is pretty much it. I mean, there's really... and you just play until the timer runs out. Pretty cool explosion sound effects for the era. And, there's not much to it, as you see. And now there is a way to modify the RAM, or the ROM, I should say, on the PCB to make these little airplane graphics into UFOs. And the thought was that was built in there, designed to make a version for Key Games, which was the Atari subsidy that kind of made the same products, but slightly different because of distribution issues. But there was a memo that states that the Key version game of this was supposed to be called Kamikaze, and the main difference was the planes would try to dive bomb and hit you as well, but never came out. So Anti-Aircraft is the only real version of this game. But let me show you the inside real quick. So with the back taken off, we have the pretty typical black and white monitor, the XM501 that many black and white arcade games used in this era, not just Atari. Very reliable monitor. You see it's very, very clean. It's all original. Not a single cap has ever been replaced on this thing, which is kind of incredible. Underneath this black panel, what you have is the AC line out filter, an isolation transformer, kind of, but it's actually the power supply, and a fuse. And then we have the PCB right here. It just slides out, and of course it's AntiAircraft is not compatible with really any other game, but you can just see in here it's remarkably clean and totally unmessed with. How many anti-aircrafts did they make? Who knows? Probably less than 3,000. Probably, if I had to guess, somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 of these were made. A decent hit for Atari. Not huge. Probably the bigger hit from this era would have been Tank, which came out by Key Games. And then, of course, you also have, in 76, I think Breakout came out, which was, I think, their biggest hit up to that point. I think Breakout was even had a bigger production than Pong did. So there you go. There is the inside of AntiAircraft. Not much in here, guys. Despite its kind of primitive nature, a game like AntiAircraft is a lot of fun. And I think you find a lot of earlier Bronze Age games which force two players to play against each other are fun because of that social dynamic. As games moved away because they had microprocessors and they could actually have an AI where a person didn't need to have two players, I think something kind of got lost. And maybe that's why one-on-one fighters became so popular too, because the interaction of fighting like a stranger or your friend was much, much more interesting than just playing the AI character. So I'm just really, really interested in Bronze Age games now. It's funny, as I get older and deeper into this hobby, the thing that I find much more interesting now are the things before the Golden Age, like pre-Pac-Man and those kind of things now. And I don't know why, but I'm interested to see where it takes me. I would love to get a computer space at one point. That would be pretty special. But anyway, that is my low-quality effort. I'm going to go upstairs and rest my voice and wait for the shippers to come pick up the Liberator. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And look forward to a Trak 10 video really soon. So, take care. Bye-bye.